Hi, folks. Tonight's topic is Project 2025 and the impact on the LGBTQ plus community. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. We have wonderful speakers here tonight. Carol Ebersole-Weiss is here, and she will be speaking first. And our state representative, Harry Bronson, is here also to speak. The way we will do this, if questions come up, put them in the chat and we will save them, or you can write them down and ask them verbally at the end. This is being recorded and you will receive the PowerPoint and the attachment in the email, and it will be available on YouTube. So without any further ado, I guess, Carol Ebersole-Weiss, let me turn this over to you.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Carol Ebersole-Weiss. I use she, her pronouns, and I am on the Human Rights Campaign National Board of Governors, and I am acting as the Western and Central New York liaison. I've been in the area about almost 12 years, and HRC has grown up here, which is a good thing. And we work very closely with our state organizations and our allies up here, which is also a very good thing and needs to happen that way. I was so thrilled when Lisa reached out to me about presenting. One of the things that I've noticed is the other campaign has very successfully distracted many, many people with their goings on and idiocy. And I have seen a significant decline in the amount of posts on social media. Very, very big decline about Project 2025. And we should be shouting it from the mountaintops for sure. So want to share my screen and take you through. HRC has done some very extensive research on Project 2025. So I know that you have been talking quite a bit and sharing recordings quite a bit about Project 2025. So much of this may not be new, but certainly bears repeating. Project 2025 actually is just a new title to a very old Republican playbook, and it will continue beyond 2025 if the Republicans do not win the seat. It'll become, Project 2029 and so on. But really, it is what the radical right has been wanting to push our democracy towards for a very long time. And as you can see, and as you know, we've already seen large attacks on the LGBTQ community across the country by state legislatures and state governments, which basically is all leading up to and helping with the takeover should we not be successful in installing Kamala Harris as our president. One of the big things that I hear in New York is, oh, we've got marriage equality. And I think Harry will support me in this. Oh, we've got marriage equality here in New York. It'll never go away. And my question to the people that I hear say that is, did you ever think that Roe v. Wade would go away? And it makes them think for a minute, but I don't think it makes them think long enough. And so we need to talk about other areas where the LGBTQ community is in danger. And some of that is covered here, right? Parenting, being able to have IVF, to be able to be a parent, grandparents taking care of or raising their grandchildren as their own child, single parenting. So it's a very wide swath that this attacks, but marriage equality is definitely high on the list. And we've heard the Supreme Court give indication that that is a target of theirs as well. So, HRC, civil rights, discrimination in the workplace. These are just some of the key bullets. I do have citations. If you have the 900-page document and want to check my citations, feel free. But I heard a rumor that they've started changing pages around, and they've even renamed the book that they put together. So I guess it depends on which version. But this is from the original version. So the non-discrimination protections that we have come to rely on, and HRC does the Corporate Equality Index, measuring a company's friendliness or work with LGBT people, not just in their own workplace, but in the community as well. That's all under attack. That will go away completely, especially on the federal level. They're already attacking diversity. A lot of companies we have sadly been seeing that have previously scored 100 on HRC's Corporate Equality Index are dropping like flies. And, we've been scrambling to try to work against all of the attacks that they've been facing that have caused them to drop that piece. Religious exemptions. I know that's a touchy subject when you start talking about people's religion and beliefs, but the bottom line is that it's a civil rights issue, and it being able to forcing a religious based employer, to me it's not forcing. To me it's saying, hey, this is a human being and you're going to treat them like any other human being. And then it would permit religious employees to refuse to work with LGBTQ colleagues or serve LGBTQ plus customers and clients. So all those cases that we've heard, it would just the folks would not have to be bringing cases anymore. But the Bostock decision from the Supreme Court, harassment, demotions, unequal pay, and unequal benefits for LGBTQ employees, directs the federal government to rescind regulations that protect LGBTQ people from discrimination. I don't want to read this. It's a very lengthy slide. Certainly, when you get hold of it, please do read through it. But specifically, they are targeting and this actually kind of carries over to Prop 1 for New York State, right, where we have expanded to cover sexual orientation, gender identity, sexual characteristics, and so on. That is what Prop 1 is trying to do. And currently it exists under the Bostock decision, and they are looking to reverse that and not implement it. Under Project 2025, agencies would be directed to refocus enforcement of sex discrimination laws. The president should direct agencies to focus their enforcement of sex discrimination laws on the biological binary meaning of sex. And we know that they don't even do that because look who's running for the Republicans as president. One of the big issues also is, again, adoption and foster care. And it would make it very much harder for LGBTQ people to adopt and create families. It would reverse current policy and allow federally funded adoption and foster care providers to refuse to work with same-sex couples or LGBTQ people, even though they're providing services funded by taxpayers. LGBTQ folks are among the people most likely to be interested in foster care or adoption, and this artificially limits the number of potential families available to children in need of homes. And in particular, what isn't mentioned here are the LGBTQ plus children that are waiting for foster care or to be adopted, not having sympathetic families to take them in, and then the potential of conversion therapy, all those horrible things that have been around for a very long time and no protections. Education, again, Project 2025 would allow discrimination against LGBTQ students. It does this by rescinding Title IX protections from discrimination in education for LGBTQ plus students and educators and dropping all ongoing investigations. Title IX is a pivotal civil rights law that ensures that all children have equal opportunity to an education, one of the most profound civil rights that children have. Federal courts have long held that LGBTQ plus students and educators should not be denied that opportunity because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And again, that's nothing new. That's been under attack for a very, very long time. And Project 2025 looks to make eradication permanent. The other thing, and it just is gut wrenching that they really focus on children. They do it mainly to play on the emotions of parents who don't have an LGBTQ child. And unfortunately, people do not people are not sympathetic, people and do not do research, take them at their word. And one of the local organization actually, including the diocese here, is putting out false information on transgender youth and what it means to be transgender and gender affirming care. And it's scaring the heck out of people. And that's why you're seeing all of those signs on the lawns that say vote no on Prop 1, because that's one of the things that in New York State, Prop 1 would enshrine in our Constitution. So anyway, to make LGBTQ children feel even more uncomfortable, they would adopt a federal don't say trans law, meaning that districts and educators who recognize and respect a student's gender identity by using their name and pronouns would be denied federal education funding. Project 2025 would require teachers to use a student's dead name and pronouns based on birth certificate, not on gender identity, unless they have written permission from parents. And even then, I'm sure they'll find a way around that. Well, that would have a particular impact on transgender students. It would impact any child who wants to be called by a nickname or middle name. A teacher couldn't call Daniel Dan, Danny, or any other nickname that Daniel may prefer. This anti-transgender agenda tramples over many of our social norms. Here are some of the better ones. Project 2025 would imprison teachers or school librarians who allow students access to books, movies, and other materials on LGBTQ plus people, classifying them as sex offenders by making the false claim that any depiction of LGBTQ plus people is inherently pornographic. Yes, you can laugh because we all know that they project quite a bit in all that they say and do. And again, citations, feel free to look it up. Project 2025 would allow schools K to 12 to refuse free breakfast and lunch service to LGBTQ plus students from low-income families. I mean, it's just disgusting. It really is really just disgusting that this is the way that they are trying to get to people, and that they still have followers that either ignore this or support it. On the reproductive health side, again, it's not just about having a same-sex couple being able to have a family, start a family, but it will also, as I said earlier, to impact gender-affirming care for transgender Americans. It will impact HIV and AIDS programs, public health research, health benefits for service members and their families. It would repeal important protections for the LGBTQ plus people against discrimination by healthcare providers. Unfortunately, discrimination in healthcare is an extremely common experience for transgender people across the country. One of the studies that HRC was involved in quite some time ago was with specifically with transgender healthcare, and so many transgender people rely on Planned Parenthood, especially in the more rural parts of the country, and it would. So poor Planned Parenthood has the double whammy of being attacked by folks who don't want want to take away a woman's right to an abortion, and also now would take away access to health care, where that trans person feels comfortable and knows that they will not face the discrimination by a healthcare provider that may not be sympathetic to their life. Project 2025 would prohibit federal agencies like the National Institute of Health, Centers of Disease Control, from conducting research or collecting data on transgender people, unless that research supports the unsubstantiated discriminatory idea that being transgender is false. There you go. It will push states to end Medicaid and Medicare coverage of gender-affirming surgeries for all trans people. And it would revoke the FDA's approval of mifepristone, which, again, has been in the news and has been a hot topic for a very long time. One of the folks that Trump has identified to watch over the FDA and those types of approvals is one of his longtime buddies, who is pretty much anti everything that Trump is. Military and veterans, again, not a surprise. I think everybody has heard him talk about this. He would look to not just reverse the don't ask, don't tell, kick any openly transgender person out of the military, but it would also prevent people who are HIV positive from serving in the armed forces as well. Project 2025 would prevent veterans' health coverage from covering gender-affirming surgeries or abortion care. Foreign affairs, again, just a couple of notes here. Basically taking away any kind of protection or support for LGBTQ rights abroad, based on the fact that other countries may not be welcoming or open to LGBTQ people and our culture here and our openness here in the United States. Africa is actually one of our biggest countries that have voiced that opinion. And even something as simple as flying the pride flag. Again, it really, they see the pride flag, any type of flag that is specific to a minority group, Black Lives Matter, any of those flags, basically their feeling is that it has no place next to the Stars and Stripes on the embassies around the world. So that is pretty much my piece.
Thank you, Carol. We're going to turn to Harry. Harry, would you like to tell us what your observations are?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, Carol, great job in summarizing all of the absolutely horrible things that are in Project 2025 that relates to our community. And the essence really is what Trump has been saying ever since he got into the political arena. And that is, if you're different, if you look different, then you're an other. And if you're an other, then you're a threat. And we need to take care of you. whether it's erasing you through refusing to use appropriate language, whether it's in many instances that you just mentioned, ordering agencies to remove anti-discrimination measures in their agencies and things of that nature. So, let me back up. I'm Harry Bronson, Assembly member, known as the only openly gay Assembly member outside of New York City here in the state of New York, something we absolutely need to change. And I know Carol's working on that. We got to get that changed here. It's really my honor to be here. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And, folks who have heard me speak, and I've looked at those who are participating tonight, probably some of you have already heard this, but, I live and my policymaking decisions are all based on a principle that I hold near and dear, and that's no matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like, what your abilities, who you love, how you identify, we all have dignity and we deserve equity, justice, and opportunities. It's really about seeing everyone's humanity and acting accordingly. Project 2025 is the exact opposite. It's denying people's humanity. So I'm going to cover a couple of things. One, I'm going to talk a little bit about the U.S. Supreme Court because I think it's directly connected with Project 2025. Talk a little bit about the danger of Project 2025. Carol mentioned the topic areas, but I'm going to do a little bit of a spin on that with connecting it to the Supreme Court and connecting it to what's happening locally so that we know that this battle definitely is at the federal level, but we also have to pay attention here locally. And then lastly, I just want to say a few words about Proposition 1, the Equal Rights Amendment to our New York State Constitution, which will be on the November 5th ballot. So, we've seen these games played by the Republicans regarding U.S. Supreme Court and, denying President Obama from being able to make an appointment and then ultimately setting it up so that Donald Trump could make 3 appointments. So there's really little doubt in my mind that if we have another Trump administration, there's going to be an opportunity for Donald Trump to make 2 more Supreme Court appointments. And that's because there are 2 justices who are up in age. Justice Clarence Thomas is 76 years old. Samuel Alito is 74 years old. And I have little doubt in my mind that those 2 justices will cooperate with Donald Trump and retire once he's president, if he, God forbid he gets reelected, or elected again, I should say. They will definitely retire and he will get 2 appointments. And those appointments are going to be extremely conservative judges, and they're going to be young judges, just like the last appointment that he had, so that we'll have decades of a stacked Supreme Court that will reinforce conservative values and indeed will reinforce anything that they try to get done through Project 2025, and will promote a white Christian nationalism approach to our policymaking. And they'll do that on the backs of our rights and our freedoms in the LGBTQ plus community, making us second-class citizens. As we saw in 2022, through these Trump appointments to the U.S. Supreme Court, they've already had extreme changes to the fabric of our country by overturning Roe versus Wade with the Dobbs decision. And in that decision, they told us what their playbook is going to be. They told us that Griswold versus Connecticut, which established a right to marital privacy against state restrictions on contraceptions, would be under attack. They told us Lawrence versus Texas, where the Supreme Court held that the Texas statute making a crime for 2 persons of the same sex to engage in intimate sexual contact would violate the due process. They'll overturn that. They told us that Obergefell versus Hodges, which guarantees marriage equality across this country, would be under attack. It's really ironic, and Connor will appreciate this being a fellow attorney, but they never mentioned Loving versus Virginia, which allowed interracial marriages. which was determined on the exact same principles that these other cases were, principles of privacy and autonomy and due process. But they don't mention that because of Clarence Thomas. So we know that they're going to use the Supreme Court to attack our rights and continue to reverse civil rights. Note, the Dobbs decision was the very first time in history where a civil rights was taken away from a group of people. The very first time in American history. And Trump did it administratively with LGBTQ rights, in particular, transgender and non-gender conforming individuals. But for the Supreme Court to do that was very shocking. So that brings us to Project 2025, the mandate for leadership. It's the playbook for the Trump administration in 2025 and for years beyond. Trump says repeatedly he knows nothing about Project 25. He didn't read it. I believe he probably didn't read it because I don't think he's a person who reads very much, but he knows about it. There are 38 people who are credited with writing Project 2025. 31 of those 38 were nominated to positions in the Trump administration or were on his 2016 transition team for Trump. So he's well connected with the people who wrote this. And what's in there is, as Carol explained in going through the details, it really promotes heterosexism through this idea of what constitutes a legitimate family and marriage and children. And it excludes our LGBTQ plus community. And they undermine our same-sex marriage equality rights, rights that children have, as Carol mentioned, and all these kind of things, whether it is, pulling away non-discrimination protections in federal regulations. And we know that this really is the battleground for our rights, and the courts right now is related to this conflict between religious freedoms and our civil rights and our freedom. We know that conflicts already exist, and we know that we've lost some battles in the court system for that. So if they use Project 2025 to allow employers to discriminate against LGBTQ plus people on the basis of their religion, or allow employees not to have to serve side by side with a member of our community because of their religion, or cases that we've already lost, refusal to serve customers on the basis of religion. If Trump gets in office, he puts Project 2025 in place, and then he also has 2 more U.S. Supreme Court appointees. This is going to be disastrous for our community, because the playbook is, they're going to create this movement through Project 2025, and then simultaneously, he's going to have appointments to continue to stack the Supreme Court for decades, So this is really problematic. It will continue to be problematic. We know regarding, librarians and teachers and things of that nature, we already know we have battles right here in this state. In my town I represent, the town of Riga, now the town that I actually live in, the town library had to fight back because there was a small group of people who wanted to ban books related to the LGBTQ community, and use the exact same argument that's in Project 2025, and that is that it was pornographic, merely because it talked about same-sex relationships. That, in essence, in their minds, made it pornographic. Fortunately, the librarian here took a lot of heat. They really were abusive toward her, but she was able to fight back with the support of the town and with the support of other folks. That's the kind of fight that we're going to continue to have. We also know that locally, they're using against me as a candidate right now for re-election, against some of my colleagues who supported my bill, which was the Trans Safe Haven bill, that would protect folks who can't come to New York State for gender affirming care. both the folks seeking the care, the parents of children getting the care, the doctors, and they're using that in my reelection, but they're continuing to also use that. And now I'll shift to the Equal Rights Amendment, Proposition 1. And I think most of you are familiar with it. Proposition 1 really comes out of the Dobbs decision, primarily was about protecting a woman's right to reproductive choice, right to be pregnant, not to be pregnant, right to make decisions based on her consultation with her doctors and those who she trusts versus having the government force medical decisions upon her. But we also took that opportunity to expand to make sure that folks would not be discriminated against by the state or by municipalities here in New York State. And we always had based on color, creed, and religion, but we added in Proposition 1 a number of other protected classes, including gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. So we're trying to embed in our New York State Constitution protections in those regards, in part, just to make sure that we continue to adhere to recognizing the humanity of everyone in our state and the protection against discrimination for everyone in our state, but also protections against what might happen at the federal level. And the attacks against Proposition 1, I don't know if you've seen them, if you've seen the lawn signs, protect girls' sports, protect parental rights. They're being very strategic here because they know they can't win the battle if they talk about abortion. They can't win it. They know what the numbers are. Here in New York State, certainly what the numbers are, but across the country, what the numbers are when it comes to reproductive choice. So what are they using? They're using our community. They are using our community to spread misinformation, spread lies, so that they can defeat that proposition that will really be there to protect people. So I encourage you to, when you go and vote, make sure you turn the ballot over and vote yes for Proposition 1. Tell your friends about it, educate them about it, but also continue to educate them about Project 2025 and its interconnection with stacking the Supreme Court that will have ramifications for decades and decades. I oftentimes tell young people in the political arena and government that I work with that, we won a lot of battles. We really won a lot of battles when it comes to reproductive choice, when it comes to anti-discrimination, not only for our LGBTQ plus community, but for other communities. And they're going to have to fight these battles all over again. They're going to have to fight them all over again. And they're going to be tremendously disadvantaged if Donald Trump gets reelected and Project 2025 is implemented in any degree, even if they only implement 1% of it. That's how dangerous that strategy is. And we're talking about LGBTQ plus tonight, but there are attacks on so many other institutions through Project 2025. So I will end with this. Another saying I often mention, and that is diversity is our strength, unity is our power. So if we in the LGBTQ plus community collaborate, work with other members of the community to fight for the humanity of everyone and fight against Project 2025 and fight against another administration, a Trump administration, that's our power. And so I encourage everybody to utilize their power through unity and absolutely go out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harry and Carol. I want to be sure to ask some questions because we've touched on a lot of things. A couple of questions that came up just as we were going through. It's just mind-boggling. Well, before I do any more talking, just what questions does anybody else have? Anybody else have things that they want to share or talk about?
Harry
Yeah.
and Connor, I am concerned about how this Proposition 1 issue is being framed. And Harry, you said it exactly right. And there is this real concerted effort to misframe the real issues, which are reproductive choice and freedom from governmental interference in our private affairs. And I'm wondering if there could be an effort to, to counter the lawn signs that literally are cropping up all over the place, misframing the issue. Is there an effort by anybody, or could there be an effort to do a grassroots drive throughout our community with a different kind of lawn sign that says, vote yes, Proposition 1 for reproductive choice protections and protections of our freedoms?
That, Ted, that's a really good idea. I just grabbed off my desk. My campaign's handing out literature about Proposition 1. I know there are some other campaigns they are as well. And it's paid for by New Yorkers for Equal Rights. So I'm thinking I will take your suggestion and reach out to them. And I can show you, they've got these wonderful little flyers that we've been handing out door to door when we've been campaigning. But I wonder if they might have a movement for lawn signs as well, because they're all over, and I'm on the west side of the county, and they're everywhere. And it's total misinformation. Protect girls' sports or protect parental rights, which it's really misleading. And as I said earlier, they're refusing to really take on the reproductive choice component of this because they know they're not gonna win that. But I'll double check and see if there's an opportunity for lawn signs.
That'd be great.
That would be
Thanks.
great. Yes, Vicky, go ahead.
So Harry, I was the person, I don't know if it's ever made its way to you directly or not. I was the person who contacted your office after your canvasser for your opponent ended up on my doorstep. And the first question, I knew vaguely about this opponent of yours, but I wanted to get it right out in front with a question about that candidate's a stance on reproductive rights. I got some kind of strange word salad from the canvasser at first, but it wasn't 30 seconds later when she started talking to me about I needed to understand that this plan that is in motion by the Democrats would allow for 5 to 8-year-olds to that already it's happening at Strong, that 5 to 8-year-olds are getting gender reassignment surgery at, when I think about the people I know at Strong, and how these 5 to 8-year-olds would get themselves to Strong Hospital. But she absolutely, I don't know whether your opponent in this election holds that particular view or not, but this canvasser believed it in her bones.
Yeah.
That this is happening at Strong right now.
Yeah. The amount of ads being paid for on social media by my opponent on this issue suggests to me she either believes it or she has no problem spreading lies. And I'll also point out, with your taxpayer dollars, by the way, because her campaign is being paid by we have public financing of campaigns now. And she has qualified for $140,000 of taxpayer dollars to run that campaign, which is using all those lawn signs you've seen, that messaging, parental right messaging, using a lot of that to attack Proposition 1 directly and to attack me. Today there was a posting, and I think I mentioned this regarding my bill that became law, the Gender Affirming Care Trans Safe Haven law. And attacking me for that. So, yeah, I didn't realize it was you, Vicky, but I was informed that there was somebody who reached out to us. Yes.
That was, the picture of a kindergartner walking to Strong Hospital when just the absurdity of that.
Well, and it
And-
also it also gives no recognition to the reality of what has to happen if a minor is involved in gender affirming care. They can't consent, but they can give they are part of the decision making depending on where they are at. But the amount of counseling that has to happen, there has to be at least a year of emotional counseling. There's all kinds of requirements, and I can't rattle them all off. I knew them when I was debating the bill on the floor because it was in my notes, but I can't remember it all right now. But it is not easy to get gender affirming care. There's a lot of checks and balances in the process that the medical field requires and the legal field requires.
Right. I tried to talk to the canvasser about this process because I was in education for my entire career, and I know young people who have gone through this process, not at 5 to 8 years old, but the canvasser wasn't having it.
I think it's probably there's less required for buying a handgun
Absolutely.
than,
Mhm.
so there's that.
Yeah, I just
Um,
wanted to throw in there. I
Yeah.
posted in the chat PDF. I actually did a presentation on Prop 1 also, and drew up these FAQs based on some of the questions that came up in that. Feel free to print that, share that, hand it to the next person that comes to your door, Vicky. I mean, it's the same premise that Trump and Vance and the people supporting his campaign, not necessarily the voters, they rely on misinformation and and fear tactics, right? And so what is going to scare a parent the most is that somebody will do something to their child that they don't have any way of protecting. There's a group that is going around mostly in the very rural areas of throughout New York, and the video that they are showing is appalling. I said, Dawn, I saw your comment about being astounded about the lies. Like, if you saw this video, I'm not even going to share it with you. But basically, it tells parents that your child can go to school and the teachers can make the decision that they're going to transition your kid and they're going to come home that day a different sex. It's like, what? Like Harry said, at minimum, absolute minimum, there's a year of psychological counseling with the child and parent. And then in reality, probably at least 2 to 3 years before anything can be done. And with children, it is so rare that there's actual surgery involved. What's mostly involved with youth, younger children, especially like grade school children, is hormone therapy.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
And
they're extrapolating, but like Harry said, all that Prop 1, all the ERA is focused on doing is expanding protections.
And
that's it.
The thing that I want to say as a person that's worked with transgender kids for the past 15 to 20 years, never are hormones given before adolescence. Never. Because nothing happens on that score before adolescence anyway. And so all we ever do when we do gender affirming care with children that are under 12 is use their preferred pronouns, let them dress the way they want to dress, and let them go to school behaving in the manner that they are comfortable behaving in. That's it. There is nothing, and you cannot change a person's gender between morning and dinner. I mean, it's impossible.
But this is
absurd.
these are the same tactics that they've used since Phyllis Schlafly. I mean, this is the same thing. Yes.
Deb, I'm so glad you're on the call. It's been a long time to see you and Kitty. just for clarification, are hormonal blockers used prior to that point?
No,
No. Okay.
no, not, am I back on again?
You're back on.
Okay, there's no hormones to block until they begin begin with adolescence.
Gotcha.
It's, I mean, some children may begin adolescence younger than other children, and then there may be some question of whether to begin using hormone blockers or whatnot. But I have never seen a child on anything like medical before age 12. Never.
Thanks. Appreciate the clarification.
Yeah.
I want to be sure that we're not missing out on anybody who wanted to make some other comment. Marley, anything that you wanted to share?
No, not really. I just wanted to reiterate, so much of this is echoed in other aspects of Project 2025, certainly within the education realm. We'll probably be covering some of this in our presentation next Thursday, but I really appreciate everyone who's come here, certainly Harry and Carol for being here, and I'm going to try to get the word out as much as I can as well.
I just wanted to say that it's also disturbing to me about the LGBTQ and adoption and foster care. I've worked in child welfare for my whole career, worked with many foster parents and adoptive parents who are LGBTQ plus and youth who identify as LGBTQ plus, and there are over 400,000 children in the U.S. foster care system today. It's been pretty steady as long as I've been doing this for over 35 years. And many youth who identify as LGBTQ plus and trans. And they're going to be so at risk. And first of all, at risk of aging out of the system without a family, which puts them at risk for all kinds of other things: early pregnancy, early suicide, not having an education. I mean, it's just on and on. These children and youth who will not have the opportunity to have a family, and the families, the adults who will not have the opportunity to be parents. And that is very concerning to me as well.
Yes, thank you.
So
Thank you.
I guess I will add one more thing, and I'll be covering this next Thursday. But if you want to look and see how this can play out in real time, just go down to Florida. Just check out Florida. If you look at the bills that have been passed and how that's playing out in the schools, the higher education setting, just take a look at Florida. And I intend on focusing on Florida as a case study next Thursday, so people can see. I mean, this isn't just wait and if he gets elected, it's happening now. So it's just really important to keep that in mind. It's not like in the future, it's happening now.
Yeah, and it's true. And Florida also will allow LGBTQ parents to foster but not adopt. And so those children who are in foster care don't get the advantage of having a forever family because the parents that they've been with are not allowed to adopt them. It is happening now. It's just terrifying.
I feel a real need to say something positive at this point. So I want to turn, because we need to hear something positive. Okay. We all know that we need to share about as much information as we can on Prop 1 because we have to protect New York from Project 2025. Worst case scenario, we've got to protect New York. So we're going to share that information. There is canvassing for local candidates. There's canvassing for the League of Women Voters on Prop 1. There's phone banking. Mobilize is available to do it at the national level. There's phone banking through the local Democratic Committee for all of us. Harry, you're running, right? Yeah, so there might be some people we would want to support who are local candidates. Mm-hmm. So we want to be sure to get out the vote. One of the most important things that you can do in encouraging families and friends to vote is to ask them what their plan is. and help them know that, you know, make it a party. There's a lot of people making early voting a party on October 26th at the Susan B. Anthony House. Take everybody with you. If you can take 10 people with you, we carry the day. Everybody here takes 10 people. We got this. So really move in that direction. A couple of other things that I want to be sure I share with you before we turn back to other questions.
Connor, can I
Yes,
just
go ahead.
interrupt? So on the 26th, my understanding is we're doing a rally that's going to start around 11 o'clock. And then after the rally's over, folks are going to go over and do early voting at the Susan B. Anthony House, right?
I wasn't sure that that had been formalized, but yes, we've been
Okay.
talking about it in Rochester for Harris, and Lisa is bringing like 150 people with her that day. So the polls open at 9, but I think there will be a rally in the park right across the street. There will be more information as that gets formalized, but Rochester for Harris is playing a role in that. And so that's a big deal. And voting early is wonderful. Other good news, my little brother sent me information earlier today, the early voting happening in Michigan, 55% of the early ballots have been women. So I think that's something.
In Georgia, on the first day of early voting, they had over 200,000 people vote, which blew the record out of the water. They had 136,000 in 2020. So,
Excellent. Excellent. So, you know, things are happening, but we have to not let up. We got to keep pushing every minute. There is canvassing in Pennsylvania. Every Saturday, there are buses going down. You don't even have to drive. It's easy. It's fun. They walk you through it. I've done it. Deb and Kitty did it, right? And was that your first time doing it? So, and you survived, right? Even though it was pouring rain. It's a good time. There's information about that on the website, or if you want to know something about it and you can't find it on the Facebook, just shoot me a PM and I'll tell you. Let's see, this coming Thursday, we're doing reproductive rights. So share that with everybody. Because that'll be talked about. Lisa's running that show on Thursday, and next week Marley is doing education. I also wanted to just share with you very briefly, I did go down to Erie, Pennsylvania last night for the rally that was there. It was fantastic, and the candidate for the Attorney General of Pennsylvania talked about Project 2025. And virtually every candidate and every speaker who stood up talked about Project 2025, including soon-to-be President Harris. And it was great. So while her opponent was in La La Land listening to his playlist on stage, she was talking issues and really doing a great job. Any questions about any of that? Any questions about where you go to find out about? I have 2,000 postcards sitting in my dining room table. It's less than that now because I've been giving them out, but if anybody wants those, let me know.
Connor,
Yeah.
let me just give a shout out. Agree with you 100%. We have a lot of work to do. We can't let up. And the countdown on my phone right now tells me we have 21 days, 1 hour, and 1 minute. So we
Okay.
need to get going.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing a couple pots of coffee can't cure. Okay.
Exactly.
It's really good. But anybody have any other questions about the issues for tonight, or what's coming up, or how to access anything? I want to thank both of our speakers tonight. You guys did a great job, and we will all watch that clip when we get it. It's going to be coming out. Is everybody getting the emails? We're going to be sending out last week's is
No?
coming out. Not yet. You haven't gotten it, Deb and Kitty? Okay, I'll follow up on that.
Don, are you getting emails? You're not
No.
either.
no, I just got the
Okay.
one that had the link for these meetings, but
Okay.
haven't gotten anything else. So yeah, that'd
All
be
right,
great.
I will follow up on that and make sure they're all getting out
Thanks.
again, and that we've included everything. All right, thank you all so very much for coming, and see
Thank
you
you.
Thursday, as many of you as we can. All right, thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks a
Bye-bye.
lot, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. Okay.